It's the All Birdies, No Bogeys podcast, your weekly disc golf analysis podcast right here on JomezPro. I'm your host, Brian Earhart. My co-host, Nate Perkins, is here. And Nate, the offseason is essentially here. We got the Match Play Championship at Hornets Nest next weekend. But man, we wind down a phenomenal year of competitive disc golf. And now this is our first offseason as a podcast, Nate, and it's time to experiment. So folks, me and Perks have been talking about a lot of different formats for episodes. And this particular series, I think both of us are very excited about. We are going to take different players across the disc golf landscape and dig into specific eras of their game and allow them to talk about how their throw from a technique side has evolved over time. Our very first guest in this series is none other than Paul McBeth, one of the most interesting players to follow over his 18-year career because of his reputation of being someone who's always tweaking something, always trying new stuff with his form, with his putt, with his disc selection. And Paul is going to give us a fantastic interview. But Nate, I know how excited you are for this series. Give it to us. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I mean, you and I, we've both just been kind of obsessed with form for, I don't know how long it's been for you, but it's just one of those things. It's hard not to be a disc golfer and not be focused on technique as well. And Paul came from the era before YouTube, right? And I kind of had YouTube, was really getting back into it, and I think most of our listeners probably had YouTube, but I think it's just pretty fascinating that guy like Paul became one of the greatest throwers of the disc before everyone already knew what was going on, right before there was all that convergence about the race leg and just off axis and just the off arm technique and just everything that we talk about these days. Paul started he honed his swing in really well before the YouTube era, so I'm really looking forward to this. Obviously, Paul McBeth, I think, is the GOAT, like the clear greatest of all time for me. And more than that, he has inspired me personally, and I know he's inspired you, Brian. But a lot of us listening, right? He, I think, changed the landscape of disc golf, not just because of how good he got or how cool of an athlete he comes across to be, but also the way that what he's done with the Paul McBeth Foundation and the way that he recognizes what the sport has given to him and what he does to give back. So it's an honor to have him on the Allbirds, Brian.
I think what's interesting about him and anyone who's been a big influence in the sport of disc golf, for me growing up, it was Nate Doss, Avery Jenkins, Barry Schultz, Ken Climo. I would watch these guys on these blurry videos that you could watch. Even before YouTube, you could find some stuff. But that's who I obsessed over, and that's who I tried to mold my throw after as I was coming along. And me and Paul are kind of the same age. But for someone like Paul, like he had local guys, and you'll probably hear from him talking about some of the local legends that taught him and mentored him along the way. And the best part about this is we have pulled clips from his first World Championship run, 2012 through 2015. We've also pulled some clips post-COVID to kind of let him analyze what changed over the years. So let's get right into this. Cannot wait. Here's Paul. Paul McBeth joins us in the flesh, digitally, for kind of our first piece of off-season content for the All Birdies, No Bogeys podcast. We're going to be experimenting with a lot of different types of shows, and I'm really excited about this one. First off, Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So I've known you as somebody who has, over time, always been tweaking something in the throw. You've been shifting discs in and out since you started playing pro. You've always been very interesting to follow in that regard. So before we get into these clips, essentially, again, for the fans, Paul is going to be talking to us about his throw evolving over time. We've gone back to about 2012 with the clips that we've pulled. But before we get to these clips and we kind of walk through them together, I want you to talk to us about when you first really started getting into disc golf technique and learning the backhand throw. That's kind of what we're specializing in today. Where did you learn? How did you learn? And who were the people that kind of helped you along initially?
So I guess the first person that I recall ever teaching me some kind of form technique was Reese Sweeney back in the day. He used to own Fly 18, which was like the first creator of rubber pads. But he has a lot of history in disc golf as well. But he used to give me some guidance and things like that. And the first thing I remember was, the thing that I remember the most was he used to get me to throw with my left hand in my pocket because I guess I had some issue with it either going too far away from my body or causing a lot of lag and things like that. But that was the first thing is he had me train with my hand in my pocket to get it to that kind of power pocket point, which I think is really big. You see someone like Drew Gibson that's really good at that. And then same with Barella. But that was the first thing that comes to mind where this is something I learned pretty early in my career. And then a lot of it was just watching other players. I was very fortunate to have some touring pros, Robert McEntee and Kyle Crabtree, in my area. So I used to watch and learn from them a lot and then eventually compete with them.
What was he trying to get you to do after that? Was there like an end game with the off-arm technique with the backhand?
I don't recall what my issue was as to like if I was reaching over the top, reaching under my arm, which you see some people do, or if my left arm was just drifting and getting in the way and kind of make me, I guess, rounding. I don't know the exact term, but he was trying to get me to keep my left arm in that power pocket, which allowed for a tight pull through close to my chest. And yeah, that was kind of the first thing to where it felt weird at first, but then it made sense and became that natural motion. And it really got my left arm forward first and out of the way and get my hip rotating and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate to learn that early in my career, and someone was willing to teach me.
When did you take the hand out of the pocket? When did you start throwing with a free arm?
I don't know how long, but he made me like. I remember I'd go and play. If you ever heard of a course called Mission Trails, it was the I think the first 10,000 foot course. He used to make me play that course with my hand in my pocket. So if you ever try it, you definitely lose a lot of distance, but there was a lot of shots I had to do it with. So I don't know how many times I played there and did that, but it's always something I still kind of go back to if I'm having issues. I'll still do it nowadays if I feel like my left arm's kind of drifting out there and causing me to round a little bit or get out of that power pocket. So it's something that stuck with me even now in my career.
Well, you have such a distinctive throwing style that pump, especially pre-COVID with that upper body. Uh, did you get that from watching other players, or is that something that just came through experimentation?
I definitely got that from watching other players. I grew up watching Robert McEntee, Kyle Crabtree. They were touring pros in my local area, and also seeing Nate Doss do it quite a bit. And I think it was more just like a timing thing for my mechanics and kind of just opening forward and then swinging it back into kind of that full reach back area for my style. And even like the forehand, I used to kind of do that Avery swing. But a lot of it was watching the pros at the time and learning what they did and seeing that it had a purpose and not just doing it for show or anything. But yeah, it's what really helped me time my throw.
Well, I want to bring us into the first section of clips, which is pre-COVID. You were telling me before we got on this show that pre-COVID and post-COVID are kind of two different eras with your technique. The first clip is from, I think, Jomez's first gig in disc golf at the 2012 World Championships. I think this final nine was at Hornets Nest. And I know you missed through this one. I can tell because of your reaction afterwards. But at the time, we'll keep watching this clip. What was your learning process like with the backhand at this time? Where were you in learning the backhand technique?
I would say I was majority backhand because early in my career I was all forehand, and I was told that if I ever want to do something in the sport or go places, I need to have a backhand and be majority backhand. And what's funny enough is this tournament, obviously being Worlds, We never played this course. We never played this hole. This is the final 9. So it was just, we showed up and played these 9 random holes we'd never seen. And I think that was a box out there. I wanted to be right of it from what the walkthrough I did. We never threw them before. And so I kind of misfired and kind of pushed it close to the OB. But yeah, you can see that pump as pretty aggressive at that point in my career. And it was a lot shorter of a run up than nowadays. Tee pads were a lot different. I think it was like 3 steps and go. And that's how you had to generate all your power.
Moving forward in your career, though, the pump stayed. And this is the beginning of that World Championship stretch. We fast forward a couple years to 2014, and you could start to see everything start to compress a little bit. It looked like you had a little bit more control. I have a clip, I believe it's from GBO, I think it was in 2014. How much better at the backhand overall in 2014 were you than back in 2012?
I think exactly what you said. It became more compressed. It became more consistent. In 2000, I started to realize it wasn't a distance competition to where I had a ton of distance when I first came into the sport. 2008, won the distance world title and was kind of like, okay, like cool, got that under my belt, but let's become more accurate. And everything started to compress. And I felt like 500 was the top end of the sport back then on how far the top distance throwers were throwing. And pretty much what you needed. So I did compress it a lot. The arm pump wasn't as far away from my body, as high from my body, and things kind of slowed down more for accuracy than power. But I do remember that was a big thing. Was let's be more accurate than powerful.
So at the time, were you throwing essentially the exact same molds in 2014 as you were back in 2012 when you first won your world title? Because you were Innova both tournaments,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So what
I
kind
would
of
almost
molds were you
say
throwing?
Destroyer. That was the only thing. I never went to the Boss. It just didn't feel comfortable to me. So I threw Destroyer pretty much from when it came out, 2008. And I feel like that's kind of all the touring players for Innova nowadays just throw Destroyer or Boss, which came out in 2009. And then T-Birds. I wasn't an Eagle thrower. I was a T-Bird thrower. Rocks and Rock 3 had just come out. And then by that time, I think a Thunderbird may have been out. Maybe not. And then ABR and Nova. I think that was pretty much it. Firebird. Firebird was in and out of my bag. That was the hardest part for me, was to find an overstable fairway that I was comfortable with. But that was pretty much my whole bag right there.
I just remember because I devoured all the disc golf content I could back then, and there were a few videos where you were talking about cycling in some like bizarre discs in and out of your bag. I remember you throwing like a Star Gazelle at one point. You were experimenting with some stuff still. Am I accurate in saying that? Were you cycling some different stuff in and out of the bag back then?
I think a lot of it came from, there were some Gazelles and stuff that they made, and they would experiment and make some really old molds in newer plastic. So the Gazelle was one where they made it in like a champion plastic or something, and it was like very unique to see how it flew. And then there were some other ones, I think like an Archangel or something like that, and like Champion, which was a super surprising disc. But I usually cycled overstable discs because I just couldn't get comfortable. I know I went with like a Firebird, a Monster, a Max, whatever else they have that was overstable, Banshee probably. But I never felt too comfortable in that slot with Innova. But overall, distance driver was just Destroyer. Maybe towards the end, a Shrike, which was like a beat-in Destroyer. But that was pretty much it.
During these years, how much did you actually think about your throwing? I mean, at that time, you're winning world championships and winning tournaments left and right. How much did you care about continuously tweaking the throw?
The form it was always a work in progress. I feel like back then the courses you always had to manipulate the disc a lot more than you have to now, especially with like your body. You'd have to throw these like turnovers and sky turnovers, but you were usually doing it a little bit more wooded courses. So you had to manipulate the nose angle, the amount of rotations you put on the disc, and a lot more had to be perfect, I feel like. than how we play nowadays. Nowadays, it's just overstable. You're either throwing backhand, forehand, and you just get it to the ground. You don't have to worry about what the action is on the ground. You don't have to worry about a lot of things that you had to even back in the early 2010s to 15. So there was, I feel like, a lot more you had to be dialed in on the touch side as well as the distance side. So I felt like it had to be a lot more precise with my form and my angles. So yeah, it was a definite work in progress. But I will say, because you were working on that more, it wasn't as much of a toll on the body as just the power shots you have to throw nowadays.
Yeah. Going into 2015, we've talked about this at length in the past on my old podcast, but you mentioned how hard you trained from 2014 going into 2015. And I have a clip from Deer Lakes at the 2015 World Championships. It's an eagle you got on hole 3. And I feel like it showcases the touch here, and then the second shot shows off the power. Everything is so much simpler even than back in 2014, but the power feels so much more there. Can you kind of break down both of these shots and kind of where you were as a thrower at the time?
Yeah, how far is the distance? I just see it's kind of blocked off for me. It says
820,
something par 5.
825.
825. Okay, yeah. So I went fairway off the tee right there. I think it was a Thunderbird or T-Bird. And then I would play it for a distance driver second shot. So it was really about the landing zone, which, funny enough, you see in some of my course designs that I kind of do this to where you design it to where you're throwing a tee shot, but you have to be very precise with the landing, and then you can elite shot in the second shot and be a little bit more aggressive versus just throwing a distance driver down that and trying to scramble from wherever it lands. But yeah, you kind of see it's a shorter run up, and the arm pump, which I'm actually really working on that right now, on seeing how I push it forward to get my momentum going forward and then bring it back to load my body, which I was actually working on that yesterday, funny enough, because it does translate to a lot of power with as little of movement as possible on my overall body. I'm using momentum versus muscle, I guess. Um, but yeah, I think just athletically, I was in a really good position. I was really in shape, training like I was training for baseball and a long season, honestly, with the goal to kind of peak mid to late season. Because before, early in my career, if you look statistically, I would do a really good off season and I would kind of peak before the Worlds and the big events, and then everything would slow down. But yeah, I'd always start off winning Memorial, playing good at Vegas, playing good early, and then kind of fade towards the end to where it's tough to have a solid year the entire year. So I started to kind of change my training and preparation into, let's be in mid-season is where we want to peak, and then let the skill take you to the rest of the season, but then let the excitement start the early part of the year. So that was kind of where I really started to figure it out, was 13, 14, 15.
I want to actually show these clips again from 2015 Worlds, and I want to ask you a question. And first off, shout outs to Ian Anderson and Central Coast for getting these videos. Huge shout out to you, man. Ian Anderson, such a legend, captured so many amazing moments from this era. But as we watch this Central Coast video here, I want to ask you again, in 2015, you trained your body like crazy. How hard were you grinding form? Were you filming yourself throwing at the time? Were you actually like watching out for things that you needed to clean up?
I would go and watch these videos a lot to see what I needed to tweak or figure out, or see if something was starting to get a little loose. But I wouldn't necessarily like go out and change things. So like if I was looking at this, like it's really good. My form is really good, but I always wanted to make sure like I wasn't standing up too early through my shot. You can see my back leg. I kind of get it to the ground early because this is more of an accuracy shot versus a power shot. To where if I'm throwing a power shot, maybe in the second clip, you'll see that left leg will follow all the way through versus landing before it crosses my front plant leg. And those are like little things. Yeah, see, that one will swing all the way around. And it's more just like letting the power rotate through the shot versus an accuracy shot. I want to stay low. I want to, hit my placement more. And then this one I can unleash and kind of, let that fly through. And if the accuracy goes, it's kind of going because I'm putting so much power behind it. And then also, the uphill and stuff like that, but that's minor.
So I know you've done some tech disc recently, but in these years, if tech disc had existed, what do you think those numbers would have been? Do you think you were mid
I have
70s, high 70s?
I have no clue with tech disc. I haven't done that in a while. You said lower mid 70s.
Like back then during the 2012 through 2015, if you had a radar gun on you, like what would your speed be? Do you think?
I would say 12, 2008 to 12, probably close to 80, if not more, pretty easily. Because right now I can hit low to mid 70s, and that's not with the trying to throw as hard as I can kind of stuff. Um, and then that time, I could probably turn it on a lot easier than I could now, just because I haven't worked on the distance like I used to back then. But yeah, I don't know tech disc. I've only tossed it once, and that was at the the expo, disc golf expo. But that was just for fun. We were playing like a small little hole. So
Well, I want to kind of move forward a little bit because you mentioned again when COVID hit, you said things kind of changed a little bit for your throw. I know there's 5 years between 15 and 20. Any other noticeable changes to the throw before we got to the COVID lockdown?
well, so 2015, yeah, 2015. I actually I broke my back, so I fractured a vertebrae at the European Open that year, and so that was before Worlds. Went to Worlds, played that, finished out the season, USDGC and all that, and then had to completely stop playing for 3 months to let it heal and do all that. So I lost a lot of that, that form and that rhythm and all that stuff because that was the first time I had to take a real break. And it kind of caused some knee issues coming back and all that stuff. So I had issues with my putting, issues with my throw, and just yeah, threw a lot of things off for a couple of years. And I'm sure you guys have more clips, but might be able to see a little bit of a difference from 15 to whatever clips we see.
Yeah. So the last clip from pre-COVID was this 2015 clip. The next clip that we have is post-COVID. So I guess maybe any memories, after 2015 from 2016 to 19 that you can think of.
Yeah, just a lot of issues with my knees coming back after that break, and then going straight into touring and stuff like that. So I think just like the timing was pretty far off, and then putting was quite a bit different. Trying to work on that. So due to the injury in 2015, the 2015 season, it did throw some things off. So I don't know what the difference will look like if it'll translate over to videos, but yeah, it was definitely a timing and trying to get that consistency thing down.
Well, we hit COVID, and everybody kind of did their own thing during COVID. Everybody kind of either changed their touring lifestyle or they kind of hit it even harder. A lot of people hit the road in 2021. What was it like for you coming back after the lockdown, and what were you training at the time, trying to get back on the tour?
Yeah, so that COVID kind of changed a lot of things for me. I don't know if it necessarily changed things form wise, but it changed things mentally a lot because it was the first time I had to stop playing something where it wasn't an off season. And it's like, well, I don't know when I'm going to come back. If the tour is going to come back, what's going to happen? Just kind of how things were going on in the world. And that was really when content took off because people were stuck at home and they wanted to watch disc golf. And I was in an area where I could film stuff and do content and keep people entertained in a way. And it really changed my competitive side of disc golf. And yeah, that's something that disappeared for a long time. So I don't know as far as form if that changed things, but okay, it did change things form wise to where now everything was for a video. So routine didn't matter. And a lot of things changed because you weren't in a tournament mindset or a tournament setting to where, all right, you got 30 seconds. Let's go up, visualize the shot. Let's do this and do that. It was just entertainment now, and which disc golf is entertainment, but you want to perform to your best. Where back then it was, let's make the most entertaining video. So if you threw a bad shot, sometimes it's more entertaining for people to watch that than perfect things every time. So that's, I think, where the biggest change has happened, and that's still something I'm working on now from the COVID era.
Well, the first clip from COVID or post COVID was in 2021 at the Preserve, hole 3. It's like 400 feet. And you started throwing, I think, was it 2019? You started throwing the Undertaker. I think this is that TI Undertaker. You started throwing these really touchy shots with them. Can you kind of talk about this era of your shot shaping and your shot selection?
Yeah, so this is 19?
This is 21. Post-COVID,
oh, 21,
this is
sorry,
21.
post-COVID. Yeah, post-COVID, sorry, 21. Yeah, this is, I think with Discraft, one of the, I guess, the weak points, it's funny to say that, was the fairways. So I was throwing Undertakers because that was just kind of the most consistent disc for me at the time. And they don't always start out that straight, but that's probably just one I fell in love with. They have a little stability, but they tended to be a little bit touchier than what I used to throw, where like a T-Bird, you could just power it and hammer it, and there was all different plastics and styles. I couldn't really find that connection with some of the molds at the time. And this was just one that I fell in love with and just can control the nose angle, the spin, the power. And this is kind of like an old school shot, funny enough. But it was just like kind of a fun shot. It wasn't the smartest shot, but it's kind of that entertaining shot that we were just talking about. But yeah, that's not an easy shot with that disc, and not one I would do now.
I was going to say it's a beautiful shot. And I remember kind of post-COVID, you threw a lot of those shots with Discraft when you kind of switched over. And so you're saying in the beginning, you hadn't found all the slots yet. Is that right?
Yeah, I just played with 2019, and I kind of just grabbed some discs and went with them. And that was the year that, when you switch manufacturers, especially after being with someone for so long with Innova, I went out and threw everything, tried everything, and I went out and threw more than I probably normally would for an off season. But I was able to find the discs I liked and ride with those for the entire year and just get so comfortable with them. And then post COVID, then COVID hit. I think 2020, I started off pretty good, I believe. And then we went to the COVID stretch, and then it was like, okay, let's just throw everything and just kind of experiment a lot. But like I said, it was more the entertainment side versus the competitive side, and kind of drifted away from what's the smartest, what's the best for disc golf, and just got into those more fun shots, but not the smartest competitive shots.
So now you lead me into a different question. I find it so interesting. You've won so many tournaments and you're struggling with something like that. Do you feel like a deep responsibility to entertain the fans like that with the way that you play the game?
I don't know if I meant it that way, where I was trying to entertain fans with that shot, because also, during this COVID time, it was hard for us to get discs as players because every disc manufacturer sold out. So I was kind of the stuff that I had at the time. I do think you kind of see that with someone like Simon, where they want to entertain the crowd at all times, and then when they kind of buckle down, play disc golf and kind of that boring golf, they'll sneak a couple wins here and there. That shot and that time, I think that's, a challenge to myself of okay, let's see if I can touch shot this, get it to fly flat, and then have a little finish, versus just kind of throwing a power shot with a more overstable disc, and maybe giving a little flex and throwing the correct distance versus throwing the perfect distance. There is always a fun time making the crowd excited. That's kind of something that I enjoy doing here and there, but I also enjoy winning.
Well, so I must have gotten that initial statement wrong. Are you more talking about those shots are fun and entertaining for you to throw?
Yeah, I guess more so for me to throw. In the one clip that we just saw, like those are fun because they're challenging. That's a very hard shot to throw with an understable disc, get it to flip up to flat, and then still have some finish. So it is a very fun shot to throw. It is not the smartest competitive shot to throw.
How often these days do you still have to fight yourself on that, decision making wise?
More often than I would like. I just feel like the game that we play nowadays is kind of boring in a way. Like you just kind of throw open shots as hard as you can and then go from there. I feel like it's a lot of, in a good way, it's for the getting people, fans and spectators into the spaces to come and watch. Very few courses are designed. Uh, I guess it's more for the spectators than it is the players at times, and challenging those kind of shots and things like that. So, um, yeah, I do miss throwing shots like that, to where it's needed, like throwing a shot where you flip it up flat, get it to fly the right distance, and then finish. To where right there, the smart shot is one angle, get to the ground, putt.
Then let's
Yeah, so I do struggle. Sorry, I do struggle.
no, it's all good. I I love hearing these stories. I wanted to kind of carry it to the next season. 2022, you won your sixth world title. It was a wild weekend across the board. I was in the booth for it. It was my first world title that I got to call. And I noticed right away that you had changed something with your off arm. And you had talked to me about it that week. You'd said that you kind of let the disc drop, or the back arm drop off the disc the whole week. We have a couple clips. We have the one shot from, I think, 13's tee shot that kind of indicates what was going on. And Tosi, run that clip. And I'd love for you, Paul, to kind of talk about your backhand that week. It just looks so different having that off arm off the disc.
Yeah, I was just having really bad timing issues, and I don't remember. It could just be like an out of practice thing, but I was having very bad timing issues, and usually it goes with the pump itself. Is what's I kind of pulled that away for the most part, and I've done this a couple times throughout the years, but it's a very bad timing thing, and I don't know. It could be something different every time. But when I pull that
Mhm.
off arm from it, I can usually get my hips back pretty easily. But I mean, it feels as weird as it looks because I have to think about it the whole time. Um, but yeah, it's not fun. But it's really to get my right hip turned and back, and especially at a time like Worlds, it's not somewhere I want to be struggling with that. But you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
Now I forgot what you had told me back then, but when did you decide to make this change? Was it that week when you were practicing, or was it weeks prior to that?
No, it was probably the day before the tournament started. It was just like, what is going on? And it's like something's off because I'm spraying it. What can I do to? Because those courses are you have to be very accurate with how much OB they have. There at Jones and then at Emporia Country Club where Champions Landing. I don't know if it had been renamed yet, but yeah, those are courses you have to be very precise. And then the nose angle is very important, especially if it's windy, and you don't want to be off in that aspect at all. So yeah, like it was definitely the week before, maybe even the day before, somewhere in there. While practicing, I was trying to figure out what is throwing it off, where can I be consistent, and when I pulled that arm off, kind of throwing like an upshot. You don't necessarily do that pump on an upshot, so my upshots were clearly being controlled, and then I kind of just carried that form into the drive to see how it would work, and it was working. So I wasn't if what was working, I wasn't going to change because it was too close to try to go back to the other throw with the pump and left arm and all that stuff.
Well, I have one more clip from this tournament, and it was just a few holes after that. It was the second shot on 17, which is one of my favorite shots that I've ever seen live. And I'd love for you to just talk about what you were lining up, what you were analyzing, and what you were seeing from this position.
Yeah, so I threw a terrible drive to be that far back, and Goose threw a monster drive. He was way up there. He had, um, I mean, what we would call this hole doesn't really have an easy upshot, but what we would call an easy upshot on this hole. And pretty sure it was a bit breezy. Um, Calvin had just thrown window B, turned it over to the right. And if I went and laid up to the left, I didn't have confidence that I could get up and down from over there, just on this hole in general. Um, but I knew if I got to the right side and across the green and across the OB, it was a fairly easy upshot. I wasn't expecting to get a putt. I was just trying to get in bounds. And I knew my throwing style. If I stayed low, you can see I stayed very low on it, and I got the pull through. This is a very glidey force. I knew if I could get across, I was going to get par at worst and stay within striking distance. If I didn't get across a bogey or worse, I'm not winning. And I, I was able to convert the shot and put some pressure on Goose because he I think ended up putting it a little closer, but still I wasn't close when I hit the big putt. But yeah, this was a all or nothing kind of shot. Um, and yeah, the fact that I got a putt and was able to make it was mind blowing.
My question that blew me away is you almost see the disc kind of rise as it's flying, and this was over 400 feet that you had to throw. Did you pop the nose up a little bit on this? Like, did you shape it like you'd shape a mid? Like, what was the thought process on the shot shape?
Um, it was maybe a touch nose up because I didn't want to just burn it over. I needed it to glide, but also it's kind of you don't see it as much here, but there is a wind coming from the basket side, so I knew the wind could help me if I had the nose up just a touch. And it would also like this wasn't a stable disc like it looks. It was a little bit more on the flippy side, but with that nose up, it'll kind of allow the wind will allow it to hold up and be a little bit more stable because of that nose up into a headwind. Um, so I think that's what kind of gave it that little lift as well. But yeah, I had to push that ceiling very close because of those banners up there, which luckily I didn't have to mess with them. I was able to carry that hill somehow, but I thought they were going to come into play a little bit more. But yeah, it's sad because Goose's shot, if you saw it on the next one, on his next shot, you would see the wind a little bit more. But yeah, it was windy. I'll say that.
Well, first off, Tosi, thank you for playing that clip like 50 times because now I have somewhere to go
Yeah.
where I need to watch that again. But between that world title and this year, where you racked up some great finishes and some victories, and it kind of feels like we're seeing you kind of gain that timing back and really start to push for some big wins. And between that, you had some injuries and you had some hardship with your throw and with your body. Can you kind of talk about that leading up to 25 and kind of what you had to do to get it back and feel like you were throwing well again?
Yeah, so that was 22. I mean, it's not like after that Worlds, my timing just magically popped back up. So it was something I had to work on the rest of the year and into the off season leading into 23. And I don't remember how 23 started, but I know how it finished. And midway through 23, I tore my labrum up at the European Open. I don't know what it is, but European Open is where I seem to get hurt when I have major injuries. Um, so I tore my labrum at European Open in 23, and that was pretty much done playing until the following year. You know, I went back and tried to compete at Worlds. Um, I think I don't know what place I took, but it ended my first and second streak. Um, but yeah, I went back, tried to play Worlds. Probably should have taken it off, but it is what it is now. Um, and yeah, so I played for a week and a half for 8 months, you know, after European Open. So that was the first time I ever had to really take a significant time off in the season, and just in my sports career in general. So that was a big change because it just felt weird coming back and playing. Um, but yeah, as far as form, I was already struggling in 22, struggling in 23, and then I had just started to figure things out while I was in Europe at the PCS Open. I was riding high. I was like, these things are finally good. They're clicking, and then the next tournament, I just win PCS by a pretty good comeback, and then get injured the final practice shot at European Open. So yeah, it was climbing up that mountain and then just getting pushed off.
And I remember how at least you never said you were frustrated, but in your voice, I sensed some frustration when I was interviewing you, kind of as you were coming back into the scene post injury. But it feels like this year, like you were saying, trying to get the pump back, you're trying to get some speed back. A lot of things are starting to go your way. I want to show a couple clips from Idlewild, which was that big win. It was so exciting to watch. I was in the booth with Perkins. We had such a great time calling it. Um, but I have a couple clips that I want to talk to you about and have you kind of break down. This is your tee shot on one final day. And it looks like the pump is a little bit stronger again. Can you kind of talk about how that distance is feeling these days?
Yeah, well, right now distance feels better than it has in a long time. One thing that I did notice is my because of the injury, my pump had started to like fall down more towards my waist instead of being up like shoulder height, and I think a lot of that had to do with the range of motion. Not really using my arm for 6 to 8 months, especially overhead. So just getting that range of motion back, which took longer than I wanted, but I think I just jumped back into disc golf, not the proper way because I wanted to be out there. I'd already been out for 8 months, versus doing it the right way of I should have just stopped after European Open. So, anyways, yeah, it's starting to get a little higher. The range of motion starting to get there. I just need to get the speed and timing's not all there because sometimes I'll really hit it and I could get it down to the basket, but I'm just not feeling as comfortable as I could because I could put it higher, give it more turn, get it to that tree, get the eagle look. So the distance, I have way more distance than I'm showing here, but it's just that being in this position, a par is good. I know I can do the eagle or give it a run for an eagle, but I just wanted to play a little bit smarter, stay in position because I think earlier in the year I probably would have went for it, but learning how to win and relearning how to win is it's something I had to do again. I couldn't just be crazy and push. I need to be a little bit smarter, especially in this tournament.
The thing that stands out to me is just the force in which the disc is coming out of the hand. And like you said, of course you can close off the stance and put the disc higher and turn it more and throw those big distance shots, but it's kind of cool how you're getting that speed back and the direction is still very much there. The
Yeah.
next shot is like the opposite shot. It's the final approach to the green on 18, which I got goosebumps on this one. Again, you pop the nose up, you float the fairway driver, bent leg the entire way through. Can you kind of just talk through this shot, talk what you were lining up? Same thing with 17 at Worlds 22.
Yeah. So this one, my left arm is not like my timing is off. You can see the timing's off, but luckily I'm throwing a fairway. It's more about the accuracy, and I need to see that left arm's a little too wide out there, but I need to just get the angle and the height. The power wasn't an issue because I had the kind of slope. I just had to throw it under that tree. And once I saw the height and line, that's all I was worried about. And I'm just saying, just come on, stay. Or, yeah, I was saying, just stay up, stay up, stay up. Because like I said, the power wasn't the issue. It was just the height. This is a very nice hole to have a shot where you don't have to worry about the power. It's just the height. So yeah, I wasn't feeling my best on the accuracy side, as you can tell by the shot. Well, the previous shot before this kind of says or shows that. But this one, I told after 17, I told Brad Schick, I said birdie wins it. And when I was in position to throw this shot, I wasn't planning on doing anything else other than birdie. So yeah, still a lot to work on after this. I knew, even though I won, not playing my A game, I knew that was a good sign.
One thing I wanted to key in on is how you keep a bent leg the entire way through this shot. Is that intentional? Like, are you
Yeah.
conscious when you throw shots like that versus kind of pushing against the brace?
Um, I think a big majority of that is because we're on a hillside and a slope, more than being flat. Because it's hard to stay low because we're standing on, I guess, the left side's higher than the right side, so sloping left to right. I need it to be balanced. So the way to counteract that is to keep that leg bent, keep the body square, but let the front leg take the hillside, I guess, slope, and let my upper body stay straight. Let my arms stay flat because I needed to throw that shot pretty flat. And I need to give it a little hyzer because it was a little a flippier disc. So letting my leg take that slope, allowing my arm to kind of sit at just a soft hyzer angle, keep my body straight. I know I'm explaining it very poorly because I'm trying to think through it, but
No,
yeah,
I'm kind of enjoying listening to this.
the leg is really what's taking that slope away, and because it's allowing my upper body to stay square, give the disc a little hyzer, and just kind of give the power needed. Because it wasn't a distance shot; it was an accuracy shot at the end of the day.
I want to go back to you. And nowadays, you're playing some great golf. You're in the mix nearly every weekend now. You're getting some wins again. What are you working on now? What is the next frontier for your throw as you continue your career?
I need to find my distance driver accuracy again. I think that's the thing that's really slipped away. I mean, just looking at the last couple tournaments, where were we? The last tournament was Lynchburg, and I was spraying the distance driver, and I don't know why. I mean, I do. It all comes down to a timing thing, and it could be a lot of the left arm starting to leak away from my body instead of being in that power pocket. Um, and I really want to learn my distance driver angles again. It's very easy to hit angles when you're standing still. You know, big turnovers, low ceiling turnovers. You know, those low hyzers where they just kind of stay 6 to 8 feet off the ground for 450 feet. Like I want to get those back. So I need to really work on those. And then kind of just getting the speed back. I want to be able to do what you showed in 2015 again. You know, that little 3-step 450 500 shot, and because I think the fewer steps and still being able to get that power is very big, and I need to figure that out because I think I've been making the mistake of just starting further back versus using the timing and using that compact form to get the distance instead of just like running up really fast and hoping that adds distance. And I think that's what's throwing a lot of my timing off. So that's what I'll be working on this winter, is just keep it short, keep it compact, but make it quick and fast. So kind of lost where I was going with it, but that's my goal this winter is to work on that distance driver accuracy and power.
Well, as long as you still keep the 400-foot air bounces, I'm totally fine with everything else that you're developing. But
yeah, well, we're
Paul,
going back
thank
there
you.
this year.
Hey, let's go. Let's go. Show it to me again.
Yeah.
Throw your drive there on purpose. Recreate the shot. Give the camera a wink for me. But Paul, anything else you got to say to the people? Anything else going on in your life going into the off season that the people should know?
Oh, this is the first time in a long time, since 22, I guess, that I'm injury free going into the off season. Looking forward to training, you know, working on the things I just said, physically getting into the shape I want to be in, and just very driven to enter 26. You know, I've relearned how to win, which I could have went off the tour and did that, but that's not what I'm paid to do by Discraft. I'm paid to be on the tour. I'm paid to compete, and that's my job. And now I'm excited to go into an off season for the first time in a long time. You know, coming off some wins, coming off some good performances, and wanting to improve on all of those things. So, just really excited. I wish the tour was still going, but I'm excited to be here with not being burned out and ready to get to it.
You heard the man, Paul McBeth, not burnt out going into the offseason, refreshed, ready to go. Paul, thanks for your time, my friend.
Thank you, Brian.
Nate, this might be the greatest display of bad timing in all Birdies No Bogeys history. In the middle of this interview, actually, no, in the middle of the beginning of the intro of the interview,
very beginning,
Perkins' internet cuts out completely and he never recovers. And he missed the entire interview. So, Nate, I'm going to quickly fill you in on my reflection. First off, how are you feeling? That must feel terrible.
Well, it just goes to show you, like, we had Ben Calloway on last week, right? And we had technical difficulties there. Like, he was there with me, and the audio's not working, and we're all scratching our heads, like, is it that complicated? And we're going through it, but everyone's patient. And week later, I'm so excited to talk to Paul McBeth, one of my favorite players. Obviously, can't wait to talk about form with him in a more relaxed setting. And it just freezes. Like, as soon as you ask your first question, Brian, it just literally freezes. It's so sad. And I was at peace with it, because honestly, if I'm not going to be there, like, who better to do it than you? And I think you are, the way that you talk about form and dissect it, and the way that you interview, I'm stoked to go back and to listen to some of it as just a fan. So I'm sure you crushed it, Brian. From your perspective, how'd it go?
I think it went pretty well. I think what I want to do in this series in the future is make sure that when we pick a span, like, okay, this is the final clip, the latest year, and then this is the earliest year, we need to have a clip from every single year, because I think Paul wanted more, which was great. But
okay,
what I loved was the stories that popped up when he watched certain shots. Tosi just played these clips over and over and over again, and you could tell that he was enjoying watching them. So we pulled the clip from 2015 Worlds where he eagled hole 3 at Deer Lakes.
Deer Lakes.
I think he goes Thunderbird or T-Bird off the tee, lands it soft like 450, and then he throws from like a really bad set of footing, like 500-foot golf shot. And you could see him saying, yeah, I want that again. That's what I'm trying to go for. And I enjoyed listening to him reflect on what he was doing during those years. But also what was interesting was post-COVID, we watched him throw, remember those pink TI Undertakers that he used to throw a lot? He threw like an air bounce drive on hole 3 at Preserve, like 400 feet. It wasn't like a pure air bounce, but it was nose up, floaty, hyzer flip, kind of like his signature these days. And he was telling me how he sometimes gets bored out there playing disc golf on some of these courses that require a lot of distance and overstability. And he says sometimes he struggles with disc selection because of choosing the best competitive shot versus choosing the shot that's entertaining for him. And I find it so interesting hearing it from someone like that. But at the same time, I understand it, because he's someone that can execute those overly technical shots. The other thing that stands out as we wrap this up is that he told me that he has to learn how to win again. And I saw immense humility in listening to him do that, or, talk about that. And I think that's the ticket, is to say, you know what, I've lost the understanding of how to win, and I need to figure it out again. And I think there's the next mountain that he gets to climb. So it sounds like he's really wanting to get some power back. He wants some speed back. And we showed a drive hole 1 at Idlewild from 25 when he won, and it looked fantastic. The pump is back. It looked really good. He was talking about how he kind of lost the pump because of mobility issues in his shoulder because of his labrum tear. So the pump wasn't as high as it used to be, but it sounds like he's getting it back, and I'm so excited. And I think this is not the last time I want to have Paul on this series. I want him to come back. I want to pull more clips for him. And anybody listening to this, send us an email, abnbpod@gmail.com. What shots from his career stand out to you? What shots, maybe what eras of his form stand out? let's do a part 2 of this episode because it sounded like he was starting to really enjoy it, and then we ended the interview. So, yeah, it was great. I'm so happy we got to do it. And who else, folks? Who else should we have
who's
on
next? That's what I want to
do
know.
one of these?
I want to know who's next.
For me,
Yeah,
it's Rick. I think it's got to be Rick.
obviously Ricky is someone who we should talk to as well. I think Ulibarri would be a great one as well to have on. And Gannon Burr, I don't know how much in front of us he has changed the form. It obviously has honed in over the years, but it would be nice to have him on as well to talk about
For
just
sure.
who his teachers were, right? Because what I would love to get out of this series, Brian, is what sports like tennis and golf have are a recognition that you don't have to do it yourself, and that there's a swing coach out there, right? And there's a performance coach out there that's going to help you. And I think disc golf is getting there, right? And right now it's so fascinating that someone like Gannon Burr can perfect the swing essentially on his own, right? Like he probably talked to some or watched some YouTube videos, but I don't think he has a swing
All of
coach
them.
that's like, like all of the videos you're saying, he absorbed them all. Yeah,
Probably.
but it still remains that I think it's fascinating that they are getting to such a high degree of perfection with the throw with just YouTube and without the coach. And I think that we can unpack that a little bit. And also we can ask those questions of what this future is going to look like when we have coaches, and what could actually improve in the long run. So great idea on the series, Brian. And if we do a McBeth part 2, I'm gonna install the fiber optics cable myself.
Ethernet.
I'm gonna bury the cable. I'm gonna dig up my land and bury the cable. run it off. No, it's so funny. I was really sad, and I was trying to grapple with the reality of it, but also felt good about you rocking the interview. So can't wait to listen to it.
Well,
and
the off season is about to be
what's going on
here.
with your house? What's up with your house? How
So
is
I'm
it,
actually
man?
sitting
Everyone
upstairs
wants
right
to
now.
know.
All the industrial fans are gone. Everything is supposedly dry, and I don't know how much
Okay.
I can say, but essentially construction starts soon. We have finally settled into an Airbnb that's in a neighborhood that me and Lindsay both really like, and we're going to be there
good.
for the next month or two while I don't know why I said it like that, while my kitchen gets essentially renovated from the ground up.
Wow.
And essentially the first floor of my home. But we'll see. I'm kind of coming to peace with it. The in-laws just came to town. I just watched the Panthers get smoked by the Bills, went to the football game, and now we're here, match play week, and I'm sure we'll have a good 2025 recap before we really dive headfirst into the off-season episodes.
Oh, we have to.
But we'll wait for match play to wrap up.
Are you working match play?
I'm not. I was going to, and then Mahmood said, just worry about your house. I took some PTO, and I'm not sure who's taking my spot. I think it's still going to be Germ, but I'm not sure where the booth is going to be because it certainly can't be here when the construction is going on. So yeah, that's my life right now. But
Well,
yeah, man,
thanks for sharing,
life is
man.
good.
We're all thinking about you.
Thank you, buddy.
And
thank you.
Yeah, thinking about you. All the fans. I saw a bunch of comments. People asking how they could help. It's pretty sweet. So for those listening out there, we appreciate you guys, how you've supported over the years and expressed your support. So much love.
Well, if you want to know a way to support me,
yeah,
when you discover what the blob is, you're going to want to get one for yourself. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You've seen the signs, but when you find out what it is, get yourself one. That'll help me out greatly. Good night, folks. We're wrapping up an off-season episode here on All Birdies, No Bogeys. Brian Earhart, Nate Perkins. Good night. Good morning. Good afternoon. I don't know when you listen to this show.
See you next week. See you next week.
Bye.